Hey, everybody. Welcome to Combat Saturday for November 14th, 2020. I'm your host, DM Gallibond. All right, today on Combat Saturday, we are going to talk about something that has often been considered a little bit controversial in terms of its use in combat, its use by PCs in D&D, and however, every single edition of the game has had it be a part of the game. And that is, we are going to talk about poison. And we'll be getting into poison as it's used in a combat situation, either by the party or by the party's enemies, whether those enemies happen to be uh, enemies that have sort of natural poison attacks or whether they are enemies that use prepared poisons as a weapon. So let's go ahead and get into this. This is there's a lot of material about this. So if we go all the way back to original D&D, there is poison existed. And it's interesting to look at how poison originally worked. So, monster poison was simple and dangerous. Character hit by poison who fails a saving throw versus poison dies. Period. If they make the saving throw, the character's unaffected. So, poison was an all or nothing. That spider bites you, roll a save. Oh, you failed your save. Well, sorry. In, and you roll a die. Oh, in 10 minutes, you're going to die. Unless somebody can do something to stop the poison. Have a nice day. Please drive through. Now, the optional rules. So 1d6 per hit die of the creature or save for half damage. Now, I can tell you that right here, this is the only place in the rule book where for original D&D where it talks about that optional rule. Everywhere else you look at all the monsters, it's all save or die. Save or die. Save or die. And there really wasn't a good bit of information in original D&D about whether or not players or the player's enemies could harvest poison from creatures to use as weapons. That seemed to be a real hole in the rules of the game. So, if you look ahead to first edition D&D, um, there was a there were started to be some rules coming into the game. Now here is a rule that's about character classes from AD&D or first edition, and you notice that now it has a column over here for poison, and the this means, is this class allowed to use poison? Well, clerics never use poison, with some asterisks. Prohibition is strictly for clerics who are not of evil alignment. The latter may use poison if permitted in the campaign by the referee. Who's the referee? The referee is the DM. They somehow, I don't know why they thought it, but in first edition they were really sensitive about the terms that they used, and so they said, "Oh, the dungeon master is really the referee of the game." Um, you don't like to do that because you know that the second you pull out a yellow card, everybody in the stands is going to hate you. So um, that's why referee is a wrong term for a wrong term for the DM. Just remember that, kids. All right. Then most of these are question marks, and that's because it's left up to the DM to decide if they want to allow poison in their campaign. Paladin never uses that because paladins, by definition, are good, so they cannot use that. And then assassins, the only ones that clearly get to use poison. Well, but what kind of poison can they use? Because they don't really say anything. Not in the player's handbook, they don't. So you have to go to the DM's guide. Now, in the DM's guide, they give you better information about poison. And this is where they introduce something called poison types. And poison, regardless of pluses or minuses, victim saving throw is all or nothing. So keeps that paradigm from original D&D. You save, they do no damage. You fail, they kill you within a minute or so. And poison potions generally do the same, although you may optionally elect to have any given one be slow acting, so that the victim will notice nothing for 1d10 hours after quaffing it. And monster poisons are all effective by either ingestion or insinuation into the body and bloodstream of the victim. Insinuation, in basically that means poison enters your system by you swallowing it or by it getting into your system through a wound. I don't think they imagined contact poison, uh, which later editions have imagined contact poison, where it gets absorbed through the skin, and that's enough to deal damage. So there are 5 categories of poison. Now, and they all have these little asterisks behind them. So the ingestive poisons, types A through E, you have the cost per dose, the onset time, how long it takes, the damage if you save, and the damage if you don't save. So now you're getting into a little bit of variable damage, but notice there are some of these like D and E, and they tend to be really expensive too. Onset time and the damage if they don't save, death. Now, insinuative, that's the kind that requires being delivered by a wound. Types A through D. Um, you have if you save, it's 0 for all of these. Damage if you don't save, 15, 25, 35, death. All right, so what do all these asterisks mean? So the asterisk means a saving throw is at +4. The chance of tasting, smelling, or seeing the poison is 80%. So the ones that don't cost a lot, it's really easy to detect them without any kind of magical means, and you get a big bonus on your saving throw. The 2 asterisk is saving throw at +3, chance of tasting, smelling, seeing the poison is 65%. 3 asterisk, save at +2, chance of tasting, smelling, seeing the poison is at 40%. And 4 asterisk, saving throw at +1, chance of tasting, smelling, seeing the poison's at 15. And assassins use all form of poison other than those listed above at efficiency, which gives the victim +1 on a saving throw. All other character types use an efficiency level, which allows the victim +2 saves in all cases. And assassins who have studied poisoning have no penalty. Well, wait a minute. Assassins can study poison? Yes, they can. So the assassin, once they reach 9th level, they can start to study poison. The study will require many weeks and cost between 2,000 and 8,000 gold pieces per week. So 2d4 times 1,000 gold pieces per week. Assassin must find a mentor who's already made such a study. And then, not only is such subject distasteful, but not probably mesh with the standard poison system used. Must spend 5 to 8 weeks to learn each of the following poison skills. So you notice they're making it very expensive and a very long time. So proper use of all poisons effective in the bloodstream, proper use of poisons effective through ingestion, proper use of contact poisons and poisons effective when in the bloodstream or ingested, and the manufacture of poisons and their antidotes. So after 20 to 32 weeks of study, at a cost of 2d8 or 2d4 times 1,000 gold pieces every single week, the assassin will have complete knowledge of 90% of all poisons known. You can then use poisons at full normal effect and have the following options as well. You choose to assassinate by instantaneous, elect to use slow poison, which will not begin to affect the victim for 1d4 hours after ingestion, and elect to use a poison which gradually builds up after repeated doses and kills 1d10 days after the final dose. So, and then of course, it's not enough just to know it. The assassin has to manufacture the poison, and that creates its own cost. Simulate each manufacturer suggested a week of time and relatively small outlay of 200 to 1,200 gold pieces for materials bribes suffice for any poison. Instantaneous and very slow and detectable poison should be more time consuming and costly. And then, of course, there you go. So now you're starting to get some rules not only about um, what poisons are. Now, all this A, B, C, D, and E, you're going to ask, well, where does that make a difference? That's if you go in the monster manual for this edition. For the ones that will have poison, it will say poison type, and it will list A, B, C, D, or E. And so that's when you go and you flip over to this table and you see what it means in terms of how much damage it takes. So, or how much damage it deals. All right, so now second edition. Poison. All too frequent hazard faced by player characters. Bites, stings, deadly potions, drugged wines, bad food all await characters at the hand of malevolent wizards and assassins, hideous monsters, and incompetent innkeepers. So the and then it actually second edition is where they actually kind of said, well, actually in the real world, here's kind of some real world statistical data for you. Greatly feared Black Widow kills a victim in the United States only once every other year, and only about 2% of all rattlesnake bites prove fatal. So, and then it says there are other exotic animals that are far more poisonous, but they don't come in contact with humans quite as much. And then the effect of the poison depends on how it's delivered. Most frequently, it has to be injected in a bloodstream by a bite or sting. Others are only effective if swallowed. And then contact poisons only needs to touch the skin. Paralytic poisons leave the character unable to move for a period of hours, and debilitating poisons weaken the character for a number of days, so on and so forth. And then in the player's handbook, or in the complete Thieves Handbook from second edition, they had a whole section on poison and sedatives. And DMG provides rules on poison types. Okay, we'll look at that in a few minutes. Sedatives are ingested poisons that disable rather than injure a character. And if the sedative is part of something they eat, then the onset is 4d10 minutes. Weakness for 1d6 minutes, and the duration is 2d12 hours. Or 2d6 hours. Then if it's drunken, the method of the poison is delivered in drink, such as poison wine or a poison potion. It's 2d12 minute or 2d6 minutes, 1d6 minutes of weakness, and 1d4 hours. So sedative is treated as regular poison, except their first effect is period of weakness. All ability scores are reduced to half, and then all this kind of other stuff. And it talks about how poison gases are rare, expensive, and dangerous. Dose is a clay jar weighing 5 pounds. Shatter open, the gas fills a 10 by 10 by 10 cube and disperses after one round. Gas lasts for 2d6 turns in an enclosed room. 2d6 rounds in a room with at least one open window, arrow slit, or whatever. Um, so poison gases generally have the effective poison type D. So that goes back to that table we were looking at before. So let's go ahead and look at the DMG for, actually, it doesn't go back, it goes forward because we're in second edition now, right? Yes, we're in second edition. So, poisons in second edition have a whole bunch of different classes and they all work in different ways. So, hey, guess what? All of this stuff is exactly out of the first edition DMG. Table 51 rates poisons for 3 different factors: method, onset, and strength. Poisons which commonly appear in the game, such as that delivered by the sting of a giant centipede, are given a specific rating for convenience. Poisons are not listed by name here, since it's neither a scientific index or a primer in the deadly nature of many plants and animals. So once again, this poison class, you look in the monster manual, it'll tell you what class of poison the creature has, and then you come here and you look and see all the particulars about it. So, method is injected. Onset 10 to 30 minutes. Strength 15/0. What does that mean? Well, that means that if you fail your save, it deals 15 damage. If you make your save, it deals 0 damage. So then type B is 2d12 minutes to onset. 20 damage if you fail, 1d3 if you succeed. C is injected. So, yes, you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 injected poisons. 1, 2, 3, 4 ingested. 1, 2, 3, 4 contact. Oh, and then 2 more injected. And so you see that all of these from class A through class F, the onset time reduces, and then the up through class F, the strength grows a little bit, except for E. E seems to be more. Even if you save against E, you're going to take 20 damage, whereas you'll take 0 damage for type F, but they will both kill you if you fail your save. Then there's the ingested types, the contact types, and then the paralytic and debilitative types, which don't deal any damage, but they will have an effect on you. All right, so that is poisons from second edition. Then in third edition, so you have to go straight to the DMG to find anything about this. So, character takes damage from attack with poison weapon, touches an item smeared, contact poison, consumes poison, or is otherwise poisoned. They must make a fortitude save. If they fail, they take whatever the damage. If they succeed, it faces more damage 1 minute later, which you can also avoid with a successful fortitude saving throw. So, poison has, in this edition, it has like 2 ticks. First damage immediately, and then a minute later, another tick. Contact. You touch it, poisons you. Ingest it, you swallow it, it affects you. Inhaled, you breathe it, it affects you. Injury, it gets into your skin through like a wound, it affects you. All right, so these are all the kinds of poisons. And then the type of poison is a delivery method, initial damage, secondary damage, what happens after a minute, and the price. And then there are perils of using poison. A character has 5% chance of exposing himself to a poison whenever he applies it to a weapon otherwise ready for use. Additionally, a character who rolls a natural 1 on an attack roll with a poison weapon must make a DC 15 reflex or accidentally poison himself with the weapon. And now you have, in third edition, you have a whole array of poisons that are not, you know, ambiguous types, but they're actually where they come from. And this is really good. And, this is a nice thing that you can use. And I still look at this, even in 5th edition games, to kind of give me ideas. Because there's a limited number of poisons in 5th edition. So I go ahead and take a look at this. So carrion crawler brain juice, contact poison causes paralysis, and then you have the price over here. So now I'll call your attention to this. The 3rd edition came out in the early 90s. Certain other property of Wizards of the Coast also came out in the early 90s. Magic the Gathering. And the most famous and the most expensive card on the resale market uh, in the game, Magic the Gathering, is the Black Lotus. And so, of course, Black Lotus extract is deals a total of 6d6 Constitution damage. That'll really ruin your day. And it's the most expensive poison in the game, 4,500 gold pieces. So, I think that's a little wink and a nod to Magic the Gathering in here. All right, so, you have your contact poisons and how much damage they do initially, secondary, and all the price. So this is really, really kind of good. Now, obviously, if you're adventurers, this can be a great thing. If you know that there are people out there that'll buy poisons and you're out adventuring and you can, find some of this stuff. You can. I remember being in gaming groups where there was at least one player that took all kinds of skills for being in nature because they knew there were all sorts of poisonous plants, and they say, you know, every time you get to a point of making a camp, hey, I want to search around and see if there's any poisonous plants nearby, and would force the DM to make a roll, and then if the roll succeeded, figure out what poisonous plants were nearby, and then could the character harvest any, and could they store it away, and did they store it correctly so that by the time they got back to town, they could still sell it and it would be viable and they could make some money off of it. So you can imagine with all of the cost of buying poisons, even if you can sell it back to merchants for only half the price, uh, it's a good second income for an adventuring character to go find all of these poisons. So that's poisons in 3rd editions. And then in 4th edition, so poison, serpent sting, or scorpion sting, or serpent's fangs, painful attack, become deadly with the creature's natural venom. Poison can be harvested from creatures or created through magical alchemical procedures. So poison vector can be applied with a weapon to a trap, darts, or needles smeared such a way as to seep through the skin or dispersed in a powder or gas so it's inhaled. And then poison characteristics. Poisons are consumable items. They affect you with an attack power. Some poisons have after effects. Poison weapon attacks. Apply a poison to a weapon. Poison takes effect the next time the weapon hits and deals damage. Poison's effect is a secondary damage attack against the same target. Poison weapons hits multiple targets. The poison attacks only the poison attacks only the first target hit. Poison applied to a weapon loses its potency at the end of the encounter after 5 minutes have passed. That's just a blanket rule in 4th edition. So now you have Stormclaw Scorpion Venom. This purple-black venom attacks the nerves, and it's got a cost. The attack +5 versus fortitude, ongoing 5 poison damage, and immobilized savings both. Um, and then Death Jump Spider, Carrion Crawler, Ground Tassel Root, Dark Toxin, Drow Poison, Hellstinger Scorpion, Blood of Zahir, Demon Web Terror, Black Lotus. Prepared as a poison, Black Lotus is ground into a fine black powder that causes terrifying hallucinations. Okay. Insanity Mist or Pit Toxin. And of course, these all have levels to them, which means that they don't become available to your characters until they reach within a certain range. It didn't mean that you had to wait until you were level 15, but you had to be like within a certain range to use it. Insanity Mist. I think you had to be in tier 2, which was 11 through 20. There were 3 tiers in 3rd edition, level 1st through 10, level 11 through 20, and level 21 through 30. And then Insanity Mist, level 20 poison. You can see how these costs ramp up as the price goes up. And then Pit Toxin is the most venomous at all. The fiery red venom from the fangs of a pit fiend sizzles when exposed to air. Cost 156,250 gold pieces. Attacks with +28 versus fortitude. Ongoing 15 poison damage, so 15 damage every round. And the character is weakened. Save-ins both. So, yeah, 4th edition had some pretty terrifying poisons. All right, and now we come to poisons in 5th edition. Given their insidious and deadly nature, poisons are illegal in most societies, but are a favorite tool among assassins, drow, and other evil creatures. So again, there's 4 types: contact, ingested, inhaled, and injury. And there are, we have a number of different poisons and kind of where they come from, the type that they are, and the price per dose. And then you get some more detail on the damage from each of these settings. So Assassin's Blood, it costs 150 per dose. Make a DC 10 con save. On a failed save, they take 1d12 damage and poison for 24 hours. On a successful save, creature takes half damage and doesn't have the poison condition. So that's, it sounds bad, but it's not all that bad. Let's take a look at. Okay, the real expensive one is purple worm poison. Why would that be expensive? Well, because you have to go kill a 50-foot long purple worm to harvest the poison. That's why. Must be harvested from a dead or incapacitated purple worm. Creatures subjected to this poison must make a DC 19 con save, take 12d6 poison damage on a failed save, or half as much on a successful one. So yeah, that's pretty bad. 12d6, yeah, you're going to feel that in the morning. That is not fun times in the old adventure tonight. All right, so this is sort of a retrospective look at poisons in D&D and kind of how they are in combat now as a DM. Whether you allow poison as something that your PCs can use, that's really up to you. And here's the really easy rule of thumb. If you don't want your characters using poison, then every time they come up against a poison or a monster that has a poison attack, you set an impossible DC for them to hit. And so you say, all right, maybe you just say to yourself, all right, the DC for harvesting poison from this is a 50. Well, there's no way that on a d20 they're going to roll a 50. So you can toy with them and you can let them roll after they kill the monster. And oh, I'm sorry, your roll wasn't high enough. So you find the poison gland, but it's already been ruptured and it's useless. Or you make it a super high DC to harvest anything from a plant. Oh gosh, yeah, your knife slipped. Your cut wasn't good enough, so you don't get any useful poison out of this plant. Sorry, I'm so sorry about that. But if you do want to allow your PCs to use it, then here are some options, and depending on where you are, you might find people that are willing to sell this to the party. All right, that's going to do it for me. I am DM Gallibond. As I said, this has been Combat Saturday. If you like what we're doing here on the channel, please subscribe to the channel, like the video, share the video, click the post notification bell so that you can be notified every time new content drops. And thank you very much for watching. We hope we will see you back here once again next week for the next Combat Saturday. Good night, everybody.